All right, hey everyone, we'll get started. And this last session of the morning is how to administer your benchmarks. Who here has assigned them before? Has anyone? A couple folks? Okay, one folk. And so for those of you who haven't, this can also be a place that you learn how to assign any assessment in LinkIt. It doesn't just have to be the benchmarks. We have a nice small group, so please ask any questions. Need me to repeat anything, ask away. Happy to help in any way I can. On the slides that were sent out, you want to go to How to Administer Benchmarks, the last hyperlink on the table of contents. And there are step-by-step steps. I ran out of words for you, but we'll do it all together. So I think everyone in here has been in my other sessions, so make sure you have the how-to sheets on one side, which is these slides, and make sure you have LinkIt as another tab. If you haven't been in one of my sessions, has anyone not been in one of my sessions? Okay, good. So you all are logged in. So in the staff resource bookmark, that's how you log in, and then you do sign in with Google. Okay, so test assignment. I'm just going to go right into the platform. Just know there's how-to sheets for everything we're going to do. If you please go to online testing, which is the screen with the check mark right here. And then you want to go to assign online tests. Now you can assign these tests actually today during the session. Yeah, that's great. So one last thing to do when the school year starts. A question for you. In your high school, are there kids that have IEPs typically that have text-to-speech? In some high schools there are. You do have some? Okay. And are those kids typically in their own class, or are they pulled out of an existing class for that? Or do they put headphones on when they have text-to-speech? Not sure. Okay. Okay. Great. I'll show you how to do that then today. So there are really 4 steps to assigning a test. Number 1, you choose your test. Number 2, you choose your kids. Number 3, you check out preferences, which I'll show soon. Actually, I'm just going to hop into I'm going to be one of you for a second here. By now you know the drill. Can I get a nice volunteer? Can I be you? Sorrow. Thank you. S-A-R. Thank you, S-A-R. S-A-R. There we go, Richard. Thank you. Thank you, Richard. Richard! Yay, Richard! All right, the pre-lunch clap, but I appreciate you, Richard. Okay, so online testing, assign online tests. I promise not to mess you up, Richard. You can do the same thing. So for LinkIt benchmarks, you choose grade 9 to 12. Is anyone in here want to know how to assign a non-LinkIt benchmark? Like something you made? Okay. For those of you who just joined, log into LinkIt, go to online testing and assign online tests. I can easily help you catch up.
Yes, how do you assign it?
Okay. So if you made a test, these are the first steps you did when you made a test. You'd either choose the grade band or the specific grade if it was like a 10th grade test, the subject, and you'll choose the bank you made. So once your test is made, it would be in here. And then the reason I asked is that you might not have it under the 9 to 12 band if you teach like just 9th graders. So once you chose the grade and subject, you'll choose the bank. A bank, if you don't know already, is a folder with a bunch of tests in it. So you'll choose the folder that says BM for benchmark. Anyone need help getting to where I am now? I don't want anyone to feel behind. What do you teach? That means we have no assessments on it. You would have to make an assessment. The benchmarks are pre-made assessments in ELA and math. But were you in my test authoring thing? Yeah, the 9:30. So when you're done with one of those assessments, you could assign it here. So it's just not in here because there's no test. But you can at least go through this just to kind of see the process. All right, so for the LinkIt benchmarks, there are right now A and B versions, A fall, B spring. Eventually there'll be a C, I said that wrong, A fall, B winter, and eventually there'll be a spring one. Or is your ELA and math semester courses or year-long? Year-long, great. So choose Form A. And you could preview it if you want to. The thing you do not want to do is you do not want to check tutorial mode. Down here on the bottom left, this is almost never used. The purpose of tutorial mode is, as it says in this explanation, is you don't want things to be graded. If you check that, we do not have a way of getting back the results. So I would recommend if you want your kids to do a practice assessment, you give them a practice assessment for something that's actually you want the data on. Maybe it's like a 2 or 3 question do now or something, or classwork. But stay away from that. All right, so you did step 1, select test. Yes. Let's keep going. Select your students. You will have your term here, and then you'll choose one of your classes. Make sure you choose a class that is supposed to take this assessment. Now, step 3 is your district preferences. This is where text-to-speech will come in. So you have default district test preferences. So if you click on district preferences in effect, I'll go through some of them. There's about 30 of them. I'm not going to go through all of them, but feel free to ask any questions on any of them. Basically, there are 5 categories. And when you click on one of the categories, it tells you what's under them. So these I went through with your administrators. You can override these. But some of the things to consider are what most people will choose to change, if they want to, are these under security, the shuffle questions. It is definitely more secure to shuffle questions and shuffle multiple choice answers. If you have a small group of students that have a particular learning disability and you're reading the test to them, you don't want the questions to be shuffled because that would stink. Everyone's looking at a different number 1. But in most cases, you will leave that on. The student honor pledge we'll actually be able to see. It says in it, and for those who are in other sessions, you saw it. It says, basically, I pledge to be honest and not cheat. Under accommodations, that's where I'll show I'll show you the text-to-speech thing. But I did want to also point out there was a question in a previous session from World Language on can kids type in accents. Now you don't need to do that for the LinkIt benchmarks. But if you are a world language teacher, we do have a Spanish palette and a French palette where it has all the different accents, tildes, etc. We also have science and math ones. These are all for fill-ins or extended response. Math teachers, calculators, anything that's algebra and above, which is all of you, they are meant to be calculator tests. Most people will have the calculators on the side. So they don't use ours. That's online. They'll mostly have a calculator on the side. Note of caution, on the bottom, there is a preference that says can review test. You typically want that off because that means the minute the kids are done with the test, they can see what questions they got right and wrong. And hey, if my best friend's sitting in front of me and I'm not done with the test, I can see what the right answers are. The time that I think it really makes sense that you can have can review test on is if you are starting your class with a short do now. Let's say it's 3 questions, and you want your kids to see if they got it right or not. Hey, if you got 0 out of 3 correct, come see me for a small group instruction. If you got 3 out of 3 correct, go to this table for, this activity. But most of the time it's turned off. So for most of these, they're kind of good as is, but if you ever want to change them, you just go to the change icon. And that change icon is here on the bottom right. You might need to scroll. And you can simply change whatever you want to. And then click Set. Does anyone have any questions on any of the ones either I did go over or did not go over? Yeah, you just got to scroll. It's on the bottom right. Yeah, so you might need to just scroll, scroll, scroll. It's right above a sign. If you don't see it, it's because you did not choose a test. Once you choose a test, it shows. I can come over and help you. I said that for the benefit of everybody, not just you.
I assumed it would be in the section with the preferences.
Oh, you have click change already. So now you have to just turn the ones on you want.
So if I change it, then it'll say change?
Change means if you want to change the district default ones.
Okay.
And then if you do, you click change and then you turn on what you want and then click save.
So I would go back to the previous screen here to change stuff.
This is where you change it. I'll show up here so everyone can see. So if you want to change stuff, you click on the change icon, and then you have these yes and no, off and ons, and then you just change on whatever you want. Let's say, or off. Let's say I want shuffle questions off. And then I click set. And then it is changed. Does that answer your question? Okay. Happy to follow up. And you can kind of verify that you did it right by just looking here. But in most cases, people will not change the preferences. I'll just briefly show you the Student Honor Pledge. So, it helps a little bit. Yes?
How about the lockdown, browser lockdown mode?
Okay, thank you for asking. So, your kids have Chromebooks, right? So you do not need, nor can they use browser lockdown mode. Your Chromebooks, they're set up where your kids have an app that they're going to go into the test taker. The app is in kiosk mode, which means kids can't go on the internet. The browser lockdown mode is for non-Chromebooks and requires that the kids download something, which most school devices won't allow them to do. So it involves like IT and Chris, but you're good to go with your kiosk app.
How about, do we need to do something with our students to, so for some of these types of systems, you have to set up this classroom to accept to join the classroom?
Awesome. Yep. Good question. So let's go to the end, like what do kids see, and then we'll actually finish the assigning. So thank you for asking that. So your kids will go to an app to take our test. I don't know what their computers look like, but it'll say LinkIt. It'll bring them to the student portal. We sync with real time every night, so you don't have to make a new class. If you assign the test today, and 3 new kids join your class, 1 kid leaves your class, because that's what always happens in September, we sync every night. So as long as you assign today, you'll get the right kids on the day of the test, as long as they were in real time the afternoon before. So your kids will go to the student portal via the app. They'll have their login page that looks like yours, except it's gold. Some of them will say, what's my username and password? And you'll just say, click sign in with Google. If you have any kid has any trouble with that, you just talk to, I guess it would be Chris, I think, or whoever on your team is in charge of real time. And then once they click sign in with Google, they'll have this page, which is a super pared down version of what you have. They'll basically go to online testing, and the tests will be there. It might be hard to see. I'm on slide 55, but there's a launch button. Launch brings them into the test. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and then it's time control, so a bunch of teachers have assigned a quiz for the day. They're only able to get into the quiz.
Great question. You can make it so they can't see it until it's time to take it. And I'll show you that after this. I think I may need to add a slide for that, but I'll show you. Okay, so let's get back here. Keeping it simple, you chose a test, you chose your class, and if you needed to make any changes to preferences, you could. Then you simply click Assign. I'm going to click Assign, but then I'm going to deactivate it so it doesn't mess you up. When you click Assign, you'll see it down here. Now, there is an assignment code. You can completely ignore it. The assignment code is for districts that don't have the student portal. It's very nice you do, or else you would have to give kids that code. They would get the zeros and the O's confused, and it's kind of a pain. All right, so for the teacher, or if any of you have kids that do have text-to-speech, I have like a 1.5-minute video on that on slide 52 that'll show you how to add text-to-speech specifically. And it'll also show you how to do it just for certain kids. Okay. Now, also, in terms of video land, I do have a video on the slide here that takes you through everything we just did for the benchmarks. So what you would do is you would, if you have other classes that you need to assign the same benchmark to, you would find the other class, click on it, and if you need to change preferences, you would, and then you'd click Assign. One of the defaults, just so you know, is use rosters at the time of test taking. This means if you assign it today and your rosters change, the right kids would get the test on the test day, as long as they were in real time the day before. So that's nice. You can, if you're like me, I'm like, I just want to get this done and out of my brain, you can do that. If your kids take multiple benchmarks, choose the other benchmark, make sure it's Form A, assign it to the right class, and click Assign. So in terms of our time, I am thinking it would be useful for me to give you about 10 minutes to assign those, and then I'll show you how to hide it so kids can't get into the test early. Does that timeline work for folks? Do folks actually want to assign it today to be done with it? Or is that something people don't want to do? Do you want me to show you now? I just figured it would be easier for me to let you assign it before I teach you more stuff. Let me give you 5 minutes to assign, and then I'll show you how to hide it, and no one's going to go on now to see it. Yep.
Are you aware of, like, Mr. Mulligan is going to want to push it out to the entire school? Or if, like,
Last year, did he do it for you?
Yeah.
Or did Val?
yes, I don't.
I think this year you all are assigning, but do you know if that's true?
I was thinking the same question. I don't know the answer.
I don't want to
Okay.
double all that.
Last year they did push it out so that ELA and math already had it.
Yes.
It was just there for our students.
Yes.
I'm not sure if the same will be true or not.
Okay. Yeah. I think the purpose of this was to teach you, but it sounds like that's a good question that we should get clarified. So maybe I will skip then you assigning them all, and I'll just show you how to deactivate them if it comes up. Does that make sense? Okay. Sorry for keep on changing things, but I appreciate you saying something. All right, so if you didn't assign, that's fine. You can just watch me. But I'm actually, before I show you, I'm just going to take a second to add these slides to your help resources so you know. So I'll just be a second. No, so A, B, and C has the same standard, same number of questions per standard, but the questions are different. So A has different questions than B, different questions than C. Number of questions, the same. Standards are the same, they're just different questions. So A, also the performance bands are set up as a pre-assessment. C is a summative typically. And because of that, it's not really a big topic for today, but because of that, a lot of districts will use us as teachers will use us as an SGO. I have no idea if that's something for you all, but something to consider. The benchmarks? Let me just finish pasting this because I'm a horrible multitasker, and then I'll tell you in a second. Boom. Okay, great. All right, now I'm ready. So these you can modify any test on LinkIt except the benchmarks. The reason you can't is they're state test predictive, so all that wouldn't happen. And if you change the number of questions per standard, the results wouldn't be valid. So that it's just not the intent of the assessment.
If I was to make my own benchmark, is there a way to take these questions, the ones that I wanted, on my own benchmark?
Good question. Again, for these are the ones that are basically locked down. That every other assessment, like Regents, Park, you can do that. You can slice and dice, but this one you can't. Again, just to keep the security for this test. Now there are some districts that do ask for the benchmarks to not be predictive and change the number of questions. Change the standards that are associated, but you won't have that predictive score. So I would say talk to your administrative team, or I'm not sure if you're an administrator, just reach out to me, and then we're happy to make that adjustment for you. But a lot of times schools will like to see, okay, how did we do this year compared to last year? And that data wouldn't be possible if we got rid of stuff. But you may have a particular use case where that is more important, so we could make it work. Okay, so if you refresh your slides, I added more slides because I knew you needed more. And I wanted to give you really specific steps for hiding the test. So this could be for the benchmark or any assessment. So if you're like me, you like to get it done early and then not stress about it. And so you can assign tests early and then hide them on the portal. Actually, I have to adjust this just a heartbeat here. Sorry, I just got to change this so it's relevant. Deactivate test to hide a test before it is taken. To show a test on the day it is taken. Okay. Sorry, refresh one more time, and this should all be good. So slide 54 will show you the steps. What we're going to do is deactivate the test. That means kids will not see it on their student portal. So what a lot of teachers do is they sign all the tests, they deactivate them all right away, and then right before period 1, I activate periods 1. Right before period 2, I activate period 2. If you are giving an assessment across multiple days, you can do that too. At the end of day 1, I don't want any kids to take the assessment during study hall or anything. So I deactivate the test after class. No one can get in. At the beginning of day 2, I reactivate it. So those are the two things that I'll show you how to do. And they're all detailed here. Okay, and you can try this with me too. If you didn't assign a test, you won't see anything, but at least you get to see where it is. So review grade online test is where you deactivate it. So I assigned a test here for Richard, and it's on the bottom. If you assigned a test, it's on the bottom too. If you didn't assign the test, it's not on the bottom. So I'm ready to go for this class. I assigned the test, but I don't want anyone to see it. So I hit the red X. When I deactivate it, they will not see it. Then, actually let me pause there. Any questions on that? Then I want them to see it. I don't want them to see it till class begins. So bell, class begins. I go to show deactivated. Notice it's off. So anything I deactivated, I can't see. So if I click on it, I can see that test now. And then at the beginning of period 1, I click the plus sign. That means kids can see it. Again, it's at the end of class. My kids aren't done. I deactivate it. At the beginning of day 2, I activate it. So that's kind of the process.
Can they go back to questions on day 2?
As long as they didn't submit it. If you don't want them to go back to questions on day 2, make your test 2 different tests. You know, for section 1, you need to be done day 1. Section 2, you need to be done day 2. So on the slides, just to go through the process, to hide a test before it's taken, you go to Online Testing, Review Grade Online Test, and click on the red X. To show a test, you go to Online Testing, Show Deactivated, and then you click the plus sign. I like to just show you these here because I know we've gone through a bunch of stuff today. You may even consider copying certain slides into your own presentation if you just want like a deactivate, activate. Or you just know that these are all in the test assignment. So let me ask you this. I have one last thing to show you, which is when kids are taking a test, how you can see who's answered what questions. But do you want some time to play around before that? No? No? Okay. Well, I'll show you the last part and we'll end early. Okay? So while a test is happening, you can monitor online test taking, which basically means how many questions each kid has answered. So if you go to Monitor Online Test Taking, any test you have assigned will be here. If you have not assigned a test, it will be blank. The only other little footnote is if you really plan ahead and you assign a test months ahead of time, you'll have to change this time frame. This only shows you what was assigned in the last month. So if you're super ahead, you might need to choose 6 months and click Apply. That would be impressive if you are like that. But basically, you click on the pencil while a test is going on in Monitor Online Test Taking, and any questions that have been answered will move from yellow to green. This updates about every 2 minutes. To be honest, we're working on making that shorter. 2 minutes can seem like forever in this world of immediate boom. But just remember, every 2 minutes it updates. If kids have handed in a test, I'm just going to go back to the slides. If the kids have handed in a test, it says completed. If kids have not started a test, you would see it says not started. Again, it updates every 2 minutes. If there's some other options here, if a kid submits a test too early, you can also, like they just hit the submit button too early, you can also reopen it. And if the assessment's a benchmark where everything auto-grades, you'll see all the results right away. It's like just a couple seconds. If you have open-ended questions on your test, which is a good thing, you will not see any results until you grade the assessment, until you grade the open-ended questions. It grades all the auto-graded stuff. Any questions about monitoring online test taking? Thank you. Yeah, that's okay.
So is it usually after and they take the test the next day? When you reopen it, it reopens for everybody, right? There's no reopening for individual
Oh, interesting question. Let me take a peek here. You could reopen for one kid. Yeah, so I didn't even realize that. Thank you for asking. Yeah, so you could deactivate it for everyone but reopen for one kid. Yeah. And there are so many test, assignment, and monitoring specific situations like that. And just know you have rows you can reach out to. My email is the bottom email on all of the slides. If you ever reach out to me, just please, oops, wrong presentation. If you ever reach out to me, please also include Alex. Alex is the tech know-how of LinkIt for you all in Somerville. And I'm usually doing this every day. I don't want you to wait till 8 p.m. if you have a question at 7 a.m. So just email both of us if you ever have a question. Rose and Jerry are great too with things, so whatever fits for you. So let me just look at this one thing here just to make sure I covered this, and then we can probably end a little early. Yeah, I do have this slide that has frequently asked questions about the benchmarks. I did cover all of this, but if you want it, it's there. Do you have any kids that would take the benchmarks in Spanish? If you did, you can reach out to us, and we'll have a Spanish version of the benchmarks. It's just in the last phases of being updated to this year next week. So. Say again? You could use the Spanish palette, but it's in English. So you need this, if you want the Spanish test, you could use it for 1 or 2 students. Is that what you're asking? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and the Spanish palette's really only for open-ended, so that's not important for the benchmarks. All right. Yes? Yeah, open-ended grading happens when you have an assessment that has open-endeds. It would happen under review grade online test taking. And what would happen is, and this is the same place we deactivated and reactivated, is you'll see that there is a blue box under PR, which stands for pending review. And it'll say review. You click on that, and it'll bring you to all the open-endeds. And if you start to use LinkIt for open-ended assessments, when you're done with your first one, either as a group or individually, you can reach out to me, and I can take you through it in about 10 or 15 minutes. I do have help resources on here, but happy to do that too. Yeah. And for your open-endeds, when you're reviewing them, it can be, you put a sum score. They got 15 out of 16, or if you use the interactive rubric when you're making the assessment, you would then choose the rows of the rubric where they are, the columns in the rubric for each row. I always get that confused. All right, awesome. Well, let me let you go a few minutes early. If people do have questions, you are more than welcome to stay. Or actually, before I let you go, did you want to add anything?
No.
Okay.
Your morning's all over now.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Good luck with the opening of school. All right, good.